evening, everyone. So I would like to give an update about the stock app I have been building and experimenting so far. There are a few improvements since last time. So as you see right now on the screen, there are buying signals as well as selling signals added to the app. The buying signals are indicated as white, and then the selling signals are indicated as green. So we can take a look at how these buying and selling signals playing out now for all these hot tickers right now. So the first one we would like to see is NVDA. So you can see that our last buying signals actually happened around August. From early August, August 1st, and then there's also all the way to August 5, 7, right? So a few buying signals at this valley at this bottom valley at the beginning of August. So now we have moved to the beginning of October. So 2 months has passed. So the buying signals are around between $99 to around $109, and then now we're at $124.92. So it hasn't reached selling signals yet, but it has pretty much increased 20% since the buying signals told us. So there are actually some parts I would like to further improve on, which is the selling signals at the breaking out point. So you can see that while at this last selling signals at 132 to $136 around mid late June, it was okay. So it actually caught at almost the peak of this period. Um, but back in February, right? So it started to call out the selling signals from February 2nd and $66. But this is probably a breaking out session for NVIDIA. It actually went all the way up, without and pretty much any dip all the way until like mid-March, right? So this whole breaking out session, it has been giving up selling signals, but it did not call out at the peak, but it called out at half of the way, right? While along this uphill breakout session. So the next part that I would like to improve on is actually how to catch this slow motion, long breaking out uphill for the price. So for this like relatively shorter sharp increase, it seems that it could call out the prices relatively at the peak. Okay, so this is uh, an overview for what's happening for NVIDIA now. So it's not at a selling signal yet, but it's getting closer. And then something I would like to show, which is actually NVIDIA. So it seems that NVIDIA is calling out a selling signal now. But again, right? So we don't know if it's actually um, calling it at the peak, just like what it did around beginning of beginning or mid July, right? So you see that here, it's relatively calling the peak. But then, back to this earlier breaking out sessions, starting from November all the way, it's like a long long uphill breakout session all the way to March or February, March of this year, right? It's like almost good 3 months, 5 months long breakout session. So it started to call selling point relatively earlier. So we're not sure if this is, right now it's indicating a sell signal from the buy signal at 130, right? Now it's 130, 171. So 171 over 130, what is like the percentage increase? 171 from, so it's like a relatively 31% increase already, right, from the buying signal. I mean, if you can take profit, I guess it's safe if you actually implemented the buy signal from this graph, right, at 130. So now it's 131. I guess it's reasonable maybe to take some profits now if you actually bought it at that time around 130. But we don't know if it would be actually this like really crazy long, another long breakout session. But if it was something like when it was July, then probably this is relatively closer to the peak, right, of this round. So this is what's happening for AMD. For the other, so the same thing for the 2 times AMD, right? So it's all also calling out for a selling point, right, for the 2 times AMD. But for all the others, TQQQ not reaching the selling point for if you bought it at 58, right, or 53, around this mid 50 point. Now it's like 72. So it's not calling a sell yet. Same thing for SOXL. It's also approaching to a selling point, but not really yet. And then TNA, no selling signals yet, right? Still a little bit far from the selling point. And for Tesla, it's also not calling a selling point yet. So this is from 2 times Tesla, but let's see from actual Tesla itself. So yeah, so even for Tesla of itself, it's not calling a selling signal yet. So maybe still some time to ride. For UPRO, 3 times of SPY, not calling a sell signal yet. So it did call a buy signal at around mid 60, right? 70, mid 60. So now it's at 85. So let's look at SPY itself. So yep, same thing, not really a selling signal at this moment. Even it's, yeah, probably all-time high. It did call a buy signal at this dip at around, 516, 517-ish. So I would like to actually show there's another buying signal that's actually called that I found with this app, which is AstraZeneca. So I believe the ticker is AZN. You see that the last selling signal it caught was around this point at 76, 77, even though it seems that that was actually a breaking out session. It went all the way up to 87, So now recently it had this dip now to 77. So it called a buying signal at September 24 at 77. So last Friday it's 77.47. So I put a limit buy just to test or experiment if this buying signal actually was a good call for the price valley, and then I'll be looking forward to see it maybe 2 months from now if this was indeed a good call for the price valley. But if we chase it back to the last call of buy for AstraZeneca was around February this year at 61, right? So this was actually indeed a price valley, right? And then the price did went up later later on for like a really long breakout session. And then also the one before that was around October 2023 at $62. And then that was also a good call at the right time relatively at the price valley, and then it did also later on went up to the sell signal in January at $68. So that was another 13% up, right? So I'll be looking forward to test this buy signal. I put a limit buy at the 77, but this is no way investment advice. So it was just me experimenting and also improving this app of mine for testing the buying signals and selling signals. So far the buying signals of most of the tickers seems to be able to catch it around the price valley, right? But it seems like for selling signals there are two scenarios. So either it caught out around the price peak, or it started to call for sale a little bit too early during the breakout long uphill session. So for my future work, I'm probably gonna improve this long uphill breakout session. So maybe I'm gonna look at adding MACD signals indicators to confirm if it's this long, slow breaking out uphill session. So then you wouldn't need to, sell halfway, right, from the peak. And then another one I would like to show is, so I also added this RSI indicator just to double confirm if any selling signal is actually makes sense. So here you can add your RSI cutoff line. So usually sometimes people did do like 70, right? 70, 30 cutoff for RSI signals. So if I press this add RSI criteria, so you can see then it actually removes all the earlier selling signal, right? So it only labeled this peak session around here, which is around May 9th, right? May 9th, which is around $77, right? But then this RSI indicator actually are not able to catch this all-time high over here, right? So sometimes I think you need to just still confirm, maybe add some more after I add the MACD signals to be able to compare all these three signals to fact check each other, right? To confirm each other. Maybe that would be something for the next session to add. So for this, so because I'm mostly in NVDA, so if I also add RSI indicator into the picture, then then it can avoid, right? So if I set the $70 70 line cutoff line for RSI, it does eliminate all this whole long, early selling signal, right? So it's able to catch relatively only at the peak, right, of the uphill breakout session. But then another thing is RSI, it wouldn't be able to catch these swing trades, right? Like for say this one, if over here that it's calling a buy at like 76, but it went up to 136. It's a really almost double, right? But over here on the RSI indicator, it's not really calling that, right? So even though it increased a little bit, but it went up all the way only to 64. So it's not meeting the 70 cutoff line. But let's say that you move your RSI to 64, then yeah, okay, then it is able to catch this other um temporary or short time peak, right, at 170, right? So this is the thing for RSI, is that you need to give it a hard coded cutoff line, right? But sometimes situations can be dynamic, right? Like, so the prices, like your selling point should be relatively to your most recent buying point, right? That will catch a good swing trade. But if you set a really hard coded, a very rigid RSI cutoff line, then it might lead you to miss out some of the profit taking sessions. So yeah, so that's pretty much the summary for today. So which is NVIDIA not calling a sell right now according to this, and then AMD is calling an indicator for sell, but we're not sure yet if this selling signal is actually indicating a peak of AMD, or it's one of the starting session for a long breakout uphill for AMD. And another one is a buying signal we discovered for AstraZeneca around $77. So, but do it at your own risk. So because we are, like stock market, no one can predict 100%, right, with 100% of certainty for the risk. So yeah, that's pretty much the summary for today's session. See you next time and for further updates of improving these signals. Bye.